Hi everybody, welcome to today's NBS webinar, NBS Chorus for projects outside of the UK. So this webinar is going to last 30 to 40 minutes. Everybody's on mute, but as we always say in the NBS webinars, please give us as much feedback as possible. And if we talk about any downloads or websites and you'd like us to send them again as a sort of reminder, just drop all of that in the chat, the question area, and we'll pick all of that up. So my name's Stephen Hamil. I'm Innovation Director here at NBS. And joining me today is Tina Pringle, Director of Technical Information at NBS. And you may have seen on our website in the press, we've got Mark Schumann, who's Director at NBS Schumann now. So Mark and the team from Schumann International have came into the sort of NBS family and joining us. So welcome, Mark. It's great to have you as part of NBS.
Thank you.
So today's webinar, we're looking at NBS specifications outside of the UK. The whole idea behind a Chorus when we developed it was it's a single technology platform, but we could have multiple content libraries, content sets to serve sort of different regions around the globe. So if you go to our scope and content on our webpage, it's a little bit small, just zoom in there. You can see that for those specifying in UK and Ireland, we have like Uniclass, common arrangement of work sections. We also have a small works library. For a number of years now, we've had content sets for practices working in Canada and content sets for practices working in Australia. But today's webinar, we're looking at the US Master Specification content set that we've developed. So just clicking on that hyperlink there. After the webinar, if you want to know more about it, you can come and just fill in the request for information here and get that full scope of content. Maybe pop that in the chat. We'll email you if you'd like to have a copy of the full sort of scope of content. But rather than me just talk about it, the best way to introduce you to the USMS content set is by asking Tina Pringle, who's our Director of Technical Information, to sort of demonstrate it on the screen. So over to you, Tina.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. So I thought I'd just take you through our USMS content, what's included in it, what it focuses on, and giving you a couple of examples of actually what we've done. So as Stephen's mentioned, we have a scope and available on the website for USMS content. USMS is master format and classification, so it covers our master format structure, and it's also the structure of the content is in the CSI structure format. But from a classification point of view within master format, you can see our scope and contents covers everything from a division 1 general requirements, your preliminaries, right through to up to the divisions in the 30s. So you'll cover things like existing conditions, concrete, thermal protection. We've got all our openings, our finishes, right through to our furnishings and equipment, our HVAC and our heating and plumbing, right through to some of our electrical and our communications. So we go right through into our some of our civils as well. So as Stephen mentioned, that's downloadable on the website, and you can see all the levels that we do within the master format structure. And all of that we have written content for. All of the content that's been written within the USMS content has been done by our technical team here at NBS. So we have a team here who specialise in technical authoring, and they have provided all the content that goes within that allows us to develop and shape and change the content for the needs of users going forward in the future. And it also allows us to keep up to date with what's happening in the industry. So as this is developed over the time, if you start utilizing USMS, you will see new sections within each of the divisions will be added on through our content updates. So now I thought I would just take you through one of our sections and show you a bit of a project and how we actually utilize our content. So we thought we'd show you some of our sections within our project, in a project. So I've actually just set up a project within NBS Chorus, and I've added some specifications in here, such as building services and interiors, build an envelope, and a preliminaries. So I thought I'd take you through just a few of those sections to show you how the CSI format looks and what our content looks like going forward. So if I start with preliminaries, we have a selection of preliminaries, general requirements within the content, which allows you to give an overview of the project itself. If I take one of our sections such as sustainable design requirements, as you can see within here, you can see the master format code, and then you can just see the title of the section that's included. So if I just open that up. And here what you will see is you will have all of your clauses in the center. You will have your general information about what's in your spec on this left-hand side. And on your right-hand side, we have general guidance, which covers the actual scope of the section that we're coming in. So here's just giving a bit of general overview of our sustainable design requirements. Each of our sections are in the part section as required by CSI. So in the case of this, we've actually got our three-part section within here, general products and execution. So I'll take you through this in the O1 section for sustainable design requirements. So as you can see, the design information on this slide and the general guidance just really covers things like lead and what's required within anywhere that you're using US-based standards. So we've got a bit of a sections including what's required, you're covering your performance objective and some of your definitions. So it really gives a bit of an overview of the definitions of some of those codes that you're particularly using here. You can see as we go down, it covers a lot of the information on lead and the objectives of lead and what it's trying to ensure for the project. And anywhere where you see the three little dots where you click on that, you can actually put any information in there, or we may have some suggested values. So if you have a particular word that you want to put in there, it allows you to do that. Or we have here provided some suggested values about things that you should drop into the actual specification. In this case, I'll do that, for example, as an owner. I've saved that, and that's popped that into my spec. So again, as you come throughout of this, the team have not only provided the clauses, but they've also provided some suggested values where you've got an insert that's required by the actual specifier. So anywhere where you've got the little open brackets, if it's a blank text, then it gives you actually some suggested values, and that suggested value sometimes comes with great guidance on this side as well about the types of things you should be thinking about when you're actually looking at putting your value in there. Or again, if you have something specific that you want to write, then it allows you to actually drop that into that as well. So again, you would just walk through each of your sections. If you don't have submittals in this section, for example, you would just do a park, and that will park that to one side. You can unpark it, and it gives you all of the suggestions in the section. And the same with each of the lines here. You can park each individual line. That allows us to do that. And you can add in some additional information, duplicate that row or insert a new row above or below. So what we give you is the outline here for the likes of submittals. And again, the team have extensively gone through and provided a lot of information on all the different types of credits within lead and what you should be putting in at what section. Again, we'll just drop down in the values. So for here, for the WE, we've got the suggested values that come from the actual standards themselves or the lead information itself. So that's something just one of the many sections within the prelims. If there was products in there, you'd give something around, for example, in here, because we're a sustainable design requirements, we're talking about salvage and refurbished materials and recycled content in here as well. So very much covering the sustainability that's required within the project. Other types of sections, just to give you an overview, are things like the summary of work. Again, all back to that part three, that three-part section with the actual general guidance on this side. And then just a bit of an overview for each of those sections. So sometimes just a general few little paragraphs around it and about the things that you should be thinking about or how you should be approaching your specification. We have things on project management and coordination. So I've just picked out a few examples of the types of sections we have in our preliminaries as well. So also about what's included, the related requirements around this, in this case, how you do coordination in our project meetings. That's just a little bit of an overview actually on the preliminaries around that. I go back to my university, in this case, specification, my sample spec. I then can look at something like the build an envelope. So I'm looking out here, and I've actually added a few little sections in. To add content, I would just add here. If you know the code that you actually want to work with, then in case of this, it might be an O4 section that I'm looking at. I just do a search, it'll show me all the sections that we have available with pre-written content from our authoring team. So I can add in something like engineering unit masonry, or I can add a cavity wall unit masonry in this. If, for example, there is a section which is within here, you can't find within here, but it happens to be within master format, you go to our advanced search and show on our template sections. Anything with a little box and a cross through it allows you, that's just a template section. So that allows you to actually create your own content, but the team have an extensive set of content within the USMS content section. So our content in here, if I'm going to take board insulation as a prime example, we cover a quite wide range within our USMS content. So the content set itself covers USMS standards or US standards. But the different libraries in it cover things like architecture, landscape, structural, building services, such as both mechanical and electrical, and some civils in there as well. So it covers the wide range of a construction project. Again, going back to our three-part, so if I look in here, all of our sections again in the CSI format. So you'll find this every time you go into a section, you'll find the same setup every single time. If you want to add and just make a little slight change to the title, just click on here and you can change that title. But actually you've got the general guidance on your right-hand side here, which covers what this section is for and the purpose of it. And then in our general section, it'll tell you what it includes. You can see where the little dots are. As soon as you click on that, you get an opportunity to drop in any particular information. So we've given some suggestions what this may include. Just click on that. And then we go back to things like related requirements. So that's always in every single section. And then we always have our reference standards. So our reference standards here are what the technical information team have actually gone out there and researched and decided were the appropriate standards that would be needed for your board insulation. They've given sort of researched that and added that information into the spec. If you don't wish to use that standard or you want to use something particularly unique for that project, then you can always park that standard if it's not being used. All the standards that are highlighted in blue here, if you click on that, that will just take you out to our little publications index, and that will give you a bit of a better information overview of the actual standard itself, what it's been superseded by, if there's a particular superseded, and where you can actually obtain that section from. But all of those are included within our specification, and anything that's listed here will also be listed further down within our general body of the specification. So again, if you come down within our first section, the general section, you'll always get admin requirements, you'll always get action submittals, information submittals, closeout, the mock-ups, delivery, storage and handling, and our site conditions. So that gives you the general information on that area of specification. Then we have a section on products. So that allows you to talk, if you know the manufacturer you wish to use, then you can drop that straight into there. As you can see, we've got the little open brackets, no suggested values, because that allows you to put your manufacturer in there. It also says whether you're accepting any other manufacturers who provide the same product. So a substitution on that. Such as here, you may be applicable to substitutions, you may not. And then under there, if we don't know the exact manufacturer and we're really wanting to do a description of the actual section, then here you'll just get general description of each of the individual materials that you want to use. And as you can see, we reference the standard. So anything that's referenced here, as you can see here, the ASTM will also be referenced in our section right at the top, where it talks about the reference standards. So all of those will be referenced back in there. You can click and find out a bit more about it. As we've put the standard in there, but as you can see here, what we've done is research what it says within the standard, the different types, and give those suggested values. So all you need to do is to click on one of those, which is appropriate to your product, and it's inserted straight into your project. And again, we can go further down. You can put something around the product in here. For example, the thermal resistance in here. Again, we've talked about it. The team have researched and put in the values of that. The board thickness. So anywhere where we have the little open brackets, the little dots and a drop down, you allow that we've given some suggested values, both in imperial and metric, to allow you to use both of those. So for example, in here, we've given a board size that is appropriate for here, and the board thickness in those as well. So again, that will be the same for every single section, regardless as to whether it's board insulation, whether it's roof tiles. As you can see, we've got exactly the same, our part 1, our part 2, and then our part 3 in execution. So as you can see here, we've got exactly the same, set out exactly the same as it would by a CSI standard. And then if you go through there, we've got our mock-ups, we've got our warranty. Under our products, we've got our manufacturer and our descriptions. In here, for example, we've got the concrete tile. You can put it to 2 different standards. So if there's particular 2 standards, we give them that options as well, rather than 1. And then you can put your material type. So it allows you to go through and really describe the products that you're actually specifying. And then finally, in our execution, which is again in every one of the sections, gives you things like examination, preparation, installation, and schedules. You can add your schedules in there. So as you can see, always the little drop down, always the opportunity to put in your size, your measurements within those schedules as well. So as I've said, it covers everything. We've done a little one for building envelope for here. I've also done one interiors. So we've added things like tiling, acoustic panelings, carpeting and signage. For example, here's our carpet tiles. And again, exactly the same structure. So the team have really gone through and looked at all the, provided you with all the basic and advanced generic information that you would need to provide your specification. When I'm finished doing that, if I wish to do so, and then I want to go in to do a particular specification, so I might want to publish my specification just to give you a look at what it looks like. So I'm going to publish my spec. I'm just going to do it in a PDF for now, so that I can see it and show you what it looks like. I'm not comparing it with anything I've done, and I'm not doing any publication because I'm just showing this as an example to you. And we already have it set up in the North American style as well. So it's a default sheet that you utilize in here. We've obviously got varying different types you can use, but in this case, we've used the default sheet for North America. I'm just going to publish that on the screen for you. And this will give you a published specification, just to give you an example of how it looks within a North American format, which you can use when you're using North American standards or American standards. There's an example of our specification set up there. We've left a couple of items in this case, we just did one for electric boilers and air conditioning rooms. And it gives you the standard setup that you would see in the top of the specification. And then it would give you all of the documentation that you filled in. Obviously we didn't fill in this one, but it would give us everything that was in the specification available. But if you've chosen the manufacturers and the products, that will be available there for you. So that really just gives you an overview of the USMS content. So just to reiterate, it's in the master format classification. We use the CSI standard structure for a specification. We have the libraries within it cover architecture, engineer, building services, landscape, civil and structural. We have a comprehensive set of generic specification information that you can complete to help complete your project, but it also allows you some template clauses if you have something very bespoke and unique that you would like to use to create your content. The scope and contents is available downloaded from our website, as Stephen showed at the very beginning, and we are having regular updates of our content within the year. About 4 updates a year we'll be doing, and always welcome any feedback about anything that we think would like to be added within that from the users of the content set. Stephen, I'll pass back over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tina. Great presentation. Fantastic to see that new content set, especially in the context of Chorus itself. It's always nice to see it in that sort of workflow tool. So we've seen the content. Now we want to talk to Mark, who's had years and years decades of experience working on complex projects with large practices on specifications around the world. So we're not going to do this as a software demo, it's just a sort of conversation between the two of us. But hi, Mark, I wonder if you could just maybe start by saying a little bit about where Schumann International sort of came from.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Well, alongside NBS, the Schumann brand has been market leading in the field of specification consultancy since the mid-80s. Over those 4 decades, we've worked with many of the world's leading architectural practices, helping them to prepare robust written specifications that help mitigate their risk. Our current business works from our bases in the UK and South Africa, and we provide a range of specification solutions to clients globally across all scale of projects in any sector.
Now, I don't know you do lots of different things. You'll help architects prepare their masters, or you'll work with manufacturers who do spec writing services. But in terms of your sort of typical project workflow, how does that work?
Well, typically we provide specification writing support to architects, and normally we would get commissioned during the early stages of design, often to compile an outline specification, which is then developed into a full tender and contract specifications at the appropriate stage of design. NBS Chorus is the starting point for both outline and tender specifications. And we make use of the various features such as the masters, summary schedules, organization notes, and of course the content. The specifications themselves reflect our client's attitude to risk, conditions of appointment, procurement route, construction contract, and importantly, in some instances, the use of specialist subcontractors who have responsibility for completing final detailed design regardless of the form of construction contract. As we are developing the specification within Chorus, our clients are able to review and comment in real time, which has allowed for a much smarter, more efficient and more collaborative service than we've ever been able to provide before. And at the end of the project, we then take that information that we've prepared on a project and we either create a brand new master for our clients, or we enhance what they already have so that lessons can be learned and incorporated for the next project.
I imagine every client's different, and sometimes you work up to maybe employer's requirement stage, sometimes it goes through to all the technical design, but maybe sometimes all the way through to as built almost.
Yeah, we get involved with everything. So if it's employer's requirements in a design and build world, we'll go up to there. Sometimes we get involved post-contract and help either a novated architect or a contractor's in-house design team to prepare relevant specifications for the design stage that they're at.
Yeah, and I guess what we've talked about there is applicable for anywhere in the world, but this webinar is about the new USMS library from NBS. Why is that attractive? Why is that useful to yourselves?
Well, the CSI format, which the USMS content is based upon, is perhaps the most widely used specification format in the English-speaking world, at least. Like all the existing content sets available, as Tina has demonstrated, it's adaptable and flexible, such that it can be edited to suit local conditions, local codes, local standards, local sustainability requirements, and local working practices. So it's a really great base point, but you still need to edit that document to suit the region of the world that you're operating in. For us, it's really important because we're now able to use that library for projects in regions such as North America, Asia and the Middle East, where we have a number of existing projects. So for us, it's going to be a big help. One thing I would say is that it's always very important when producing the specifications to use the correct format and base documentation, which have been written to suit the specific international standards. So where Common Arrangement uses British standards, the USMS library follows the ASTMs. I would say try not to mix the two, as mixing standards and format can lead to problems such as compliance and quality, which can be easily avoided.
And if you're working, say, overseas and in one of those like emerging economies, like I guess that's one of the first questions you ask your clients, get that right from the start.
Absolutely, absolutely right. As I say, the CSI content is used predominantly outside of Europe, and in any country, there are two sorts of clients. There are local practices, local to the geography that you're working in, and then you have international firms active in those regions. Now, those firms may be experienced international firms who have operated there many times before, or there may be a practice entering a market for the first time. In all instances, a robust spec is needed and is necessary in order to mitigate their risk and satisfy their clients. And as a specification expert, that's the advice I try and provide.
Yeah, and from our point, if you have been involved in all this, the software development at NBS, 5 or 6 years ago, we had NBS building, which was rigidly tied to common arrangement of work sections. We had NBS crate, which was rigidly sort of like UK Uniclass. And it's really nice now just to see these new content sets come up. You've got like a single platform that's Chorus, but you've got the flexibility. And I come into work in the morning and I know there's Australian practices working on Chorus. And then you get the UK practices during the day. And then you start seeing that it's the Canadian. So getting the USMS content in it is fantastic for us here. In terms of your typical client overseas, is it sort of more your sort of developer sort of client that employs the architects, or is it the architects themselves? Is it a mix?
We have a real mixture, to be honest. We have developers where we're working with them across big programs of work where they need maybe a more appropriate set of master or enhanced masters to suit their particular requirements, where we get involved with them. Others are architects and engineers who are either unfamiliar with the local geography they're working in, or just need some specification assistance, particularly in, say, the Middle East, where CSI is very commonly used. But take a UK-based architect, they may not know how to write a CSI specification, so we provide that support to them.
So it could be a huge project that's going to go on for 10, 15 years, and the developer creates a set of masters which then gets used on project after project,
yeah,
and maintained.
Yeah, and then we will set each practice up on Chorus. The Chorus becomes that central focal point for all specifications, and then you can all work collaboratively on it at the same time. That everyone has, or the developer in particular, has oversight of all the different documents. So without Chorus, that wouldn't be possible.
I'm trying to think what would a developer have done 4 or 5 years ago? Would it have been wait and see, and then boxes of paper at the end, sort of thing? Well,
it would have been
or even worse.
Yeah, I've seen lots of different things, really, but it would have been, dealing with each design team separately, perhaps with different types of specifications. From a developer's point of view, they're looking for, say, common component strategies where, they all want to get their block work from one source, their plasterboard from another source. They don't want design team A getting plasterboard from source 1, design team B getting all their plasterboard from a completely different manufacturer. So by creating these masters and these common component strategies, I call them, they can, helps their supply chain really to get better prices.
Yeah, I think we've seen that with some of our larger architectural practices just in the UK that sort of offer client advisor services to big sort of like clients that do lots of projects like supermarket chains, hotels, even sort of government departments, where they want to get that specification strategy right and maintained, and then that feeds onto project after project.
Absolutely right.
And we just touched on it briefly there, but how has like digital changed the specification writing process, do you think?
Well, in many ways, and it's changed it a lot. I mean, over the years, we've been linking detailed specifications with drawings and BIM models through keynoting and other practices. However, Chorus has allowed us to make this process far more efficient than it ever was, as well as providing that collaborative platform for all parties to work within. Digitalisation, as well as issues around PI insurance, copyright and contracts, that has changed how specification consultancy services are delivered and the types of solutions that we now recommend to our clients. For instance, we now recommend to all of our clients, whoever we work with, that they completely adopt and implement NBS Chorus as their in-house specification system for many reasons, but to do with flexibility, the ability to create your own masters and system libraries. It helps with copyright, it gives clarity around that difficult subject, while still being able to call upon a specification expert to help with the preparation of the specs as required, because we can just, even though they have their own Chorus system, they can just invite us on to either review what they've done, or we can write it on their behalf through the platform. But this trend of digitalisation is going to continue and evolve and will continue to develop rapidly. And our collaboration with NBS allows us to keep innovating and providing these solutions that will benefit and protect our clients, which is ultimately what it's all about.
So just last question, speaking about continuing to innovate, where is specification going in the future?
Well, that is a good question. One thing that will remain is that there will always be a need for the information that is contained within what we today call a specification. However, how it's delivered, who takes responsibility for it, what it looks like, how it's viewed, used, etc., will change and evolve as specifications become even more digitized and technology improves and contracts change. Clearly, a best-in-class platform that contains multiple content libraries to suit any geography is really important, as is the ability to work collaboratively regardless of where you are in the world. Technology will continue to make the spec process more efficient through things as company specification data libraries that allow a user to search for previously designed and specified elements from past projects, to even greater levels of sophistication with the 3D models. How the content of specifications evolve themselves will of course be in response to the manner in which buildings are conceived and funded, how they're designed and procured, and how they are built in the future. And alongside NBS, we aim to continue to ensure we remain at the forefront of these issues and innovations to provide that advice and solutions.
Yeah, I think in particular, having your specifications in one place in the cloud, rich data, and then being able to query that and loop it back around. I think that for me is probably the biggest sort of game changer in recent
Absolutely,
years.
Absolutely.
Well, fantastic to speak, Mark. Thank you for your time today. I'll thank you and conclude the webinar. Yeah, so that sort of concludes the webinar. Just like to say thank you very much to Tina. Thank you very much to Mark. Tina presented some of the basic functionality in NBS Chorus, but just if you'd like to know more about, it's a short webinar, but if you'd like to know more about the more advanced functionality in Chorus, if you come to our NBS Chorus website and just scroll down the page here, we've got a really nice, what we call the Chorus Pro area that talks about the enhanced features. And if you click into there, we have a sort of area for some of the ways of getting even more out of Chorus, things like how to export the information out, inviting users to collaborate, creating masters for reuse on future jobs, the whole sort of collaboration around notes and comments, either at a project level or organization level, or revisions, style sheets, and that sort of planning overview summary schedule that we have. So that's on the NBS Chorus page on the nbs.com. If you'd like to know more about the history of Schumann International and the services they offer, just pop it into Google, but it's schumanninternational.com. And you can see in terms of their services around specifications, design management, we've got the contact us there, and a few of the logos from some of Schumann International's sort of bigger clients down there. So that wraps up today's webinar. If you've got any sort of final questions, please pop them in the chat, and we'll get back to all of the questions that came through. Visit the nbs.com to find out more. And just a reminder of our email address and website at the bottom there. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tina. And thank you for those that have attended. Bye-bye.